The modern opioid epidemic is not just a health crisis, it is the literalization of a much deeper, hidden spiritual pathology. We are witnessing a global attempt to cut the wires of our internal alarm systems, silencing our own screaming bodies. We have lost the essential vocabulary required to translate what these internal alarms are saying, so we choose to mute the signal entirely instead of listening to the message they carry. This leads us directly into what we call the fragility spiral, a trap of our own making. Our desperate insulation from even minor discomforts leaves us so psychologically paper-thin that we cannot withstand the weight of existence. When the inevitable weight of life finally descends, we find ourselves completely unprepared to carry even the smallest burden of being. In this state, many begin to trigger a desire for the ultimate anesthetic, which is suicide, not because life is impossible, but because we have lost our calluses. We have traded our resilience for a comfort that eventually becomes its own kind of suffocating prison and deadly trap. But we must argue that pain is not a biological error. It is in fact a diagnostic miracle of survival. Pain is the vital friction that proves you are still in the game, a sharp reminder that you are still alive. Conversely, the total absence of feeling is not peace, it is the silent precursor to a spiritual death. To understand how to heal, we must look to the ancient laboratories of the human spirit. Historically, the icons of human endurance didn't just survive suffering, they used it as fuel for their own internal transformation. Consider Marcus Aurelius or Viktor Frankl. They used the heat of their circumstances to forge a character that comfort and safety could never produce. They understood that suffering comes in two forms: useless stagnation or the transformative friction of growth. When you medicate every sting away, the house still burns. You have just blinded yourself to the smoke of reality. The modern world has perfected the art of the anesthetic. We have apps, pills, and distractions to ensure we never sit with ourselves. But in doing so, we lose the ability to navigate our own souls. The laws of nature tell us that entropy and disorder always increase, and without the work of intentional pain, we simply dissolve into a state of absolute nothingness. If you cannot feel the sting of the cold, you will never seek the warmth of the fire. Our pain is a compass, pointing us towards the parts of our lives that require immediate attention and radical change. To ignore the compass is to stay lost in the wilderness forever. The fragility spiral is a feedback loop where every avoided discomfort makes the next one feel twice as heavy as the last.
We become like a muscle that never lifts a weight. We atrophy. Eventually, even the air feels heavy. The tragedy is that we think we are protecting ourselves, but we are actually stripping away our armor. The laws of physics apply to the psyche. If you have no substance, any force will accelerate you toward destruction. Look at the great structures of history. They were built to withstand storms, not to avoid them. A building that cannot sway in the wind will snap in a gale. Human character works exactly the same way. We need the tension to maintain our structural integrity over time. Marcus Aurelius sat at the edge of the dramatic wilderness, writing to himself about the necessity of endurance. He didn't have the luxury of a quick fix. He knew that the mind is a king that must learn to rule over its own suffering. He wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way itself. This is the ultimate alchemy, turning the lead of pain into the gold of wisdom. When we run from the fire, we lose the only thing currently keeping us warm in an increasingly cold and numb modern world. Viktor Frankl, surviving the unimaginable horrors of the camps, discovered that those who could find meaning in their suffering were the ones who survived. Meaning is the bridge over the abyss of pain. Without it, we drown. With it, we can walk through fire. It is not the load that breaks you. It is the way you carry it through the darkness. We have been sold a lie that the goal of life is happiness, defined as the absence of discomfort. But a life without discomfort is a life without depth. It is a shallow pool where nothing significant can grow. The deep ocean requires the pressure of the depths to sustain its life. Think of the calluses on a guitarist's fingers. They are technically dead skin, a response to repeated injury. Yet without that dead skin, the music would be impossible to play. The pain creates the protection that allows for the art. If we medicate the fingertips of our souls, we will never be able to play the music of a meaningful life. We will remain silent, protected, and completely empty of song and purpose. Pain is the electric pulse of life itself, the sharp and necessary proof that you are a sensory and feeling human being. To accept your pain is not an act of masochism. It is a profound act of survival in a world that wants to numb you. It is a choice to stay awake when everyone else is drifting into a chemically induced sleep. It is the beginning of true freedom.
The contrast is clear. Useless suffering is a circle that leads nowhere. Transformative friction is a staircase. Every step hurts, but every step takes you higher above the fog. You must choose which type of pain you are willing to endure, because the avoidance of pain is the most painful path of all. When you stop running from the fire, you realize that the heat you feared is actually the source of your light. The things that hurt us are often the only things that can wake us up from the trance of modern existence. We are like iron being forged. The hammer is loud, the fire is hot, and the water is shocking. But without the hammer, the fire, and the water, we are just a useless lump of cold, raw metal sitting in the dirt. Stop running from the fire, because it is the only thing currently keeping you warm in an increasingly cold and numb world. Accepting the sting of life is the only way to truly taste its sweetness. You cannot have one without the other. To shut the door on sorrow is to lock the door against joy as well. We must learn to translate the language of our discomfort. A headache might be a call for rest. Heartbreak might be a call for growth. Anxiety might be a call for courage. If we simply kill the messenger, we will never receive the wisdom that could have saved our lives and our very souls. The fragility spiral ends when you decide to take the first step toward the friction. It starts small. A difficult conversation you've been avoiding, a physical challenge that scares you, a truth you haven't wanted to admit to yourself. These are the weights that build the psychological muscle needed to survive the weight of the world. Each time you face the sting without flinching, your paper-thin psyche grows a layer of steel, preparing you for the great trials to come. The house is burning, but you are no longer blind to the smoke. You are awake and you are ready to act. Character is not something you are born with. It is something you forge in the furnace of your own experience. It is the result of every time you chose to stay in the game. We must reclaim the vocabulary of pain. We must stop seeing it as a defect to be cured and start seeing it as a teacher to be respected. Only then can we stop the spiral of fragility and begin the climb toward true, unbreakable human strength and spiritual maturity.
The electric pulse of life is waiting for you. It is sharp, it is heavy, and it is absolutely necessary. Do not trade your humanity for a painless cage. Choose the fire. Choose the friction. Choose to be a sensory being in a world that has forgotten how to feel anything real at all. The cold world is coming, but you have the fire within you to stay warm. Pain is the friction that proves you are still in the game. It is the proof that you are still alive. In the end, we are defined not by our comforts, but by our scars. They are the map of where we have been and the proof of what we have overcome. If you are currently in pain, do not ask how to make it go away. Ask what it is trying to tell you. Listen to the alarm. Translate the message. Let the heat of the moment forge you into something that no amount of comfort ever could. The path forward is not around the suffering, but through it. Like the warriors of old, we must find our strength in the very things that threaten to break us. A state of perfect balance is not our goal. We want the imbalance that leads to movement, to growth, and to life. Embrace the daily struggle. Pain is the fire that keeps you warm. Stop running. Start listening. Start living again in the heat of the moment. The transition from fragility to resilience begins with a single choice. The choice to feel everything, both the agony and the ecstasy, both the dark and the light. That is the only way. We are sensory beings. We were designed for the friction.
We were made for the fire. The trap of avoiding pain is a trap that leads to the end of everything. The acceptance of pain is the beginning of everything. Choose life. Choose the pulse. Choose to be whole. You are not paper. You are iron. And iron only becomes steel when it is put back into the fire of existence. Let your pain be your diagnostic miracle. Let it show you where you are broken, so that you may become stronger in the broken places. This is the only path to a soul that lasts. Thank you for watching. If this spoke to you, perhaps it is time to stop the numbing and start the healing. It won't be easy. It will sting. But that sting is the proof that you are still here, still fighting, and still alive.
The cycle of the fragility spiral is broken when we invite the discomfort back in. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be willing to feel the weight. Every time you choose to endure, you are building a temple that no storm can tear down. You are moving from a state of anesthetic death to a state of electric life. The world is cold, but the fire in your heart is enough to light the way for everyone who is lost in the dark. The fire is not your enemy. It is your creator. Walk into the heat and find out who you really are today. The deadly trap of avoiding pain is finally behind you. Ahead lies the difficult, beautiful, and vibrant world of reality. It will be worth every single second of the struggle. Welcome back to life. Welcome back to the pulse. Welcome back to the fire that makes us truly human and makes us whole. Your new path is paved with the courage to feel, a journey where every sting is a step toward true mastery. This mastery does not seek the absence of weight, but the strength to carry it with grace and purpose. As you move forward, remember that the internal resilience you have forged is a shield that grows stronger with every challenge. The fire within is now a constant beacon, guiding you through the cold voids where others drift in silence. You are no longer a victim of any circumstance. Carry this flame into the darkness, and let it be the light that others seek when they find themselves lost in the fragility spiral. The journey continues, and the fire is yours to keep. Stand tall, feel the sting, and live with everything you are today and every day after. Endure, transform, thrive.